Hey everyone, it's Stacy from the Mental Fitness Center. You can follow us on Instagram, the Mental Fitness Center, or on Facebook, the Mental Fitness Center, for more tips and tricks. Also, if you're interested in more in-depth counseling or therapy, our website is www.slawrencetherapy.com. Okay, this is part 2 of our video series on fear response and the coronavirus. Now, just to recap on video number 1, which you should watch before this one because they're going to build off of each other. But just to recap, we talked a lot about what's happening in the brain when we go into a fear response, particularly the amygdala, which was that little teeny part of the brain that's in charge of the fight-flight response. It's our reptilian brain. It's a really old, wired part of our brain. And then also the prefrontal cortex, which is where our executive functioning happens. It's where impulse control comes from. It's where we make good decisions, things like that. And we talked about how when the amygdala gets overwhelmed, it blocks the prefrontal cortex from making kind of the decisions, the future related decisions that we need to make. So today I'm going to talk about one more system that's important to understanding the psychology and why we're responding how we are from a mental health perspective. Now, I'm not going to get too in-depth into the system because it gets really complicated and really complex. I'm just going to say enough to sort of understand how the system works. That system, we've actually already talked about it, so it's the nervous system. And within the nervous system, there's 2 parts. The central nervous system, which is what we've talked about. That's the brain and the spinal cord make up the central nervous system. And then there's the peripheral nervous system, which is what we're going to look into today. Now, within the peripheral nervous system, there are even 2 further systems. One is the somatic nervous system. The other is the autonomic nervous system. And we are looking at the autonomic nervous system. So I have a drawing that we're going to go over and kind of what happens to the autonomic nervous system when we get into our fear response. Now, you've already asked yourself the question, is my fear response or my fight, flight, or freeze, is it helping me in this exact moment, yes or no? If yes, then don't listen to this information. Do what you need to do because you're in survival mode. If no, if you're not in imminent danger, maybe there's potential danger in the future, like not having enough money, not having enough food. But if you're not in imminent danger right now, pay attention to this piece of it because this is important. So here is my drawing. And there is a big reflection. Hopefully you guys can see it. So we're talking about the autonomic nervous system. There are 2 parts of the autonomic nervous system. There's the sympathetic nervous system, and there is the parasympathetic nervous system. When we look at these 2 systems, in the middle, when we have perfect balance, that's what we call homeostasis. Now, the goal is for us to return to homeostasis at any time. So it's okay and it's normal for us to be in homeostasis. A crisis happens, we shoot up, and then the goal is to bring ourselves back down, stay in homeostasis. Maybe we go into parasympathetic, then we go back into homeostasis, back up into sympathetic. That's okay. That's how our body functions normally, so there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, and we kind of talked about it already, is when we are in a fear response, we're in homeostasis, the coronavirus kicks off, right? News, Facebook news feed, you start seeing all this stuff about the coronavirus and the impact of it. We shoot up into our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight and flight, okay? And then the problem is we stay up in our sympathetic nervous system for a long period of time. Now, how our body is designed is the sympathetic nervous system is designed that we shoot up there, we fight off the saber-toothed tiger, we whatever the imminent danger is, we confront it, we accomplish it, we, fight it off, run from it, whatever it is, and then we return to homeostasis. What happens when we go into our sympathetic system, into fight or flight? There's a couple things that happen with our body. This is stress too. When people are stressed or anxiety, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. Your body's kicking in, fight, flight, I need to respond. Anxiety's that way, stress is that way. So not just the coronavirus. People experience this all throughout their life. Now, what happens when we are in our sympathetic nervous system is basically it's a survival. Our safety is at risk, our existence is at risk, and we need to survive. So what's happening in your body is your body's stopping digestion. So that burrito that you ate, your body's not going to be digesting that. It needs to spend its energy getting ready, fight, flight. Our immune system is somewhat compromised because our body isn't worried about fighting an infection off anymore. It's worried about safety and survival. Now you can see where this is a problem with the coronavirus or anything, stress, anxiety, is that if we are in our sympathetic nervous system, it's in overdrive all the time, then our body isn't digesting food well. It isn't fighting, viruses or fighting infection. The immune system is somewhat compromised. So you see people who are really stressed all the time or have anxiety all the time, a lot of times they get sick often. They have problems gaining weight or not being able to take off weight because the body isn't concentrated on weight and food and metabolism. It is constantly in this sympathetic nervous system of we're getting ready to go to battle. So already you can begin to see why even with the coronavirus, it's important that we don't spend too much time up here, that the time we spend up here is to do something constructive, to fight or flight, get out of the situation, and then to get ourselves to go back down to homeostasis. So the other thing with the sympathetic nervous system is there is a concept called sympathetic shock. I'm going to call it sympathetic shock. And essentially that is when our body gets up into our sympathetic nervous system and stays there. We're in shock, and so we stay in that space. For example, if you see people that are always go, 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 like 1,000 miles an hour, you might say they have tons of energy, they're just doing stuff all day long, go, 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 every day, go, 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 go. There's a chance that they're in sympathetic shock. Their body is stuck in this fight, flight state. And so they're super productive. So in some respects, it pays off to be in sympathetic shock because they're probably really productive. But the negative consequences are, again, looking into when we're in this place, our body isn't able to do rest and recovery. It isn't able to digest effectively. It isn't able to fight sickness. There's a million other things that stop happening when we go into this state. So being aware, people with the fear response, if the fear response isn't going away or it feels like there's no way to fix it, they might be stuck in sympathetic shock. Now, we'll get into parasympathetic shock too, because like yin and yang, black and white, there's both sides to the coin with this. So that's important to understand, as you check in with yourself, where am I at in this continuum? Is my fear response high? So my amygdala is like sounding the alarms, and then your sympathetic nervous system kicks in and is like, okay, we got this. Are you stuck there? If so, we'll get into different ways to get unstuck from there. Or do you feel like you're in homeostasis? Do you feel like you're good, you're handling it? Or let's go down to parasympathetic. So parasympathetic nervous system, there's two parts, two functions of it. Number one, this is where our freeze response lies. And it's also where our rest and recovery response is. So say, while we're sleeping at night, our parasympathetic system might be more engaged because it's working on digestion. It's working on fighting any kind of infection. It's working on restoring our body and fixing our body. It's a little bit more, energy-wise, it's a little bit below homeostasis. It's slowing it down a little bit more. Now, that would make sense that part of it is freeze, because if you slow down too much, your system halts and you go into freeze. So we'll call this then, it's the same concept where you want to be in homeostasis, then you can go down to parasympathetic so your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, so you can do rest and recovery, because rest and recovery is really important. Just like fight flight can be really important too to get us out of danger. But the goal is to come back up into a balance, into homeostasis, maybe shoot up here, go back down here, up in homeostasis. So what happens when we get stuck down in our parasympathetic nervous system, when we get stuck in freeze, is we've gone into parasympathetic shock. And that's where we're just unable to do anything. So some people with the coronavirus might be stuck in parasympathetic shock, where it's like, I feel nothing about it. Not that, homeostasis is like, okay, these are real threats. This is how I'm going to address these real threats. This is how I'm going to make sure I have food. This is how I'm going to make sure I have toilet paper. This is how I'm going to make sure I can handle being with my kids all day, or whatever it is, right? That's homeostasis. The ones that are like, I don't know what to do. I have no clue. What do I do? I'm not sure what to do. They can be stuck in parasympathetic shock. Okay. That all makes sense, yeah? Okay. So what we want to do is really find a balance between excitement and between our inhibition. So engaging that prefrontal cortex, that we're still thinking logically about things, but when we need to react, we can react. So the first thing I want to offer as a suggestion is, if you feel yourself, if you close your eyes or just sit quietly for a second, feel kind of where you are in your body. Now, an easy thing to do is add heat or add ice if you feel like you're stuck in sympathetic shock, or if you're stuck in parasympathetic shock. Because what happens when you're in sympathetic shock or parasympathetic shock, essentially your body is taking over. It's on cruise control. Think about it just on cruise control. And it's, your mind is detached. You can't even use your mind, and your body is just like, I know how to respond. Whether it's I'm shutting down, this is too much, or it's I gotta ramp up and I'm gonna stay ramped up. So part of adding ice or heat to your body is essentially to shock it, to bring awareness back into it, connect your mind body. And you'll see throughout these videos, one of the most important things with a fear response is to connect your mind body, because they've separated. When you get into a innate response, or into a sympathetic shock or parasympathetic shock, you've separated from your mind body. So and that's really the basis of any work that we do, is making sure that we're connected. Mind, body, spirit, they say, but really right now, mind, body. Spirit's a whole nother series of videos, but let's concentrate mind, body. So generally, and this isn't always the case, if you find yourself in sympathetic shock and you add ice, you can connect yourself back down to your body. If you're in parasympathetic shock and you add heat, you can connect back to your body. Some people, it's switched around, and that's totally, there's no right or wrong answer. Practice doing both. So if you notice, like, I'm panicking about something, if you notice you're panicking, you're in sympathetic shock. This is a problem, is a lot of people with the coronavirus, they're panicking, okay? Panic isn't an effective fear response. We know this, right? And It's not a judgment to people that are panicking, because there's times that I panic that I know it's not good that I'm panicking, but I feel like I can't help it. I don't know what to do. I'm just panicking. I'm really scared. I'm really worried. So it's no judgment if you find yourself as the panicked or anxious one. So if you find yourself there, sit quietly and add ice or add heat and see what happens. See if it brings yourself back down. Same with if you're in freeze and you add ice or you add heat. See if you can bring yourself back up into homeostasis. What this is doing, and we talked about, is with the amygdala, it is quieting that amygdala down a little bit so your prefrontal cortex can kick in and we can start to make a plan about how we're going to get through this time. So ice and heat. You can use an ice pack. You can use, sometimes I have a bunch of frozen blueberries. Sometimes I grab whatever is there, which is frozen blueberries, and I stick it wherever I feel like it needs to go. A lot of times it's on the back of my neck. Sometimes it's on my abdomen. Usually I like heat on my abdomen. And so I have some over there, but you know, those microwavable heat packs that have rice in them or beans in them, heat one of those up, put it wherever. Maybe it needs to go on your heart. Maybe, you know, your abdomen. Maybe it needs to go more towards your sacral chakra. If you're into chakras, you can tap into what chakra needs it. So play around with adding ice or heat to get you, we're going to call it grounded, or back into your body. That's going to be step one. See how that is. See how it works, how effective it is for you. And this is going to sort of shock your systems and bring you back into this homeostasis. Now, another thing to think about is when we are in sympathetic shock or parasympathetic shock, our body is perceiving that we're not safe. Now, you could logically know that you're safe, but your body could be responding as if it's not safe. So what we want to do is then, after you've used ice or heat, you're bringing yourself back into your body. What you want to do is find something that creates safety. Now, some circumstances we are in imminent danger. A lot of times we aren't in imminent danger. We're worried about, how am I going to pay my bills at the end of this month? That's not imminent danger. I am not in life's threat. Like, I'm not going to lose my house today if I don't pay. Most cases. Some people will be in that situation where it is, I have to pay my electrical bill, otherwise it gets cut off today. That's a separate category. I'm talking to the people that you're not in imminent danger. So you've done ice or heat, you've brought your body back down, you're quieting that amygdala a little bit. That amygdala is still there. You know, there's still some anxiety, or we're still in freeze, but we're just quieting it down a little bit. The next step is going to be to find safety. So sometimes that is simply taking a quiet moment to remind yourself that in this very moment, you're safe. In this very moment, I have food in my fridge. In this very moment, I have toilet paper. In this very moment, I have heat. I have electricity. I have a roof over my head. It's going to be important to remind yourself and to stay in the moment, because if you are 15 days from now, 15 hours from now, 30 days from now, that's anxiety. Anxiety is worry about the future. Anxiety helps us. I'm not saying get rid of anxiety, because we once we get ourselves to feel safe, we're going to have to figure out what the heck we're going to do without a salary for the month. But you can't figure that out if you're in sympathetic or parasympathetic shock. You got to get back to homeostasis. So I recognize that finances might be a real threat for people coming up. Check in. Is it a real threat right now? Because the goal is to feel safe right now. What else do you need to feel safe? Do you need to find connection with people? Do you need to walk around your house and reassure yourself that you're safe? Whatever you do, it's going to be an individual thing that it looks like. Find safety. Okay. So we found safety, right? We found things where we feel safe in this moment, concentrating. Okay, I do have food right now. I do have heat right now. I do have shelter right now. I am, maybe hardly holding it together with my kids going crazy and homeschooling, but I'm holding it together. Like no one has, we haven't had to go to the hospital, right? Whatever you got to do to find that safety. So step 2 is going to be to calm the nerves even more. So thinking about shrinking that amygdala even more and connecting our mind body again. One easy way to do that, to calm the nerves, is to begin to get in touch with what we call your biorhythms. Now, your biorhythms are the desire to sleep, the desire to eat, the desire to wake up, any natural desire of your body, and begin to listen to them. So right now, I'm getting a little grumbly in my tummy. And so what I'm going to do to connect my mind body is I'm going to start listening to that. Once we've calmed down our anxiety a little bit and calmed down that amygdala, then we can start to really pay attention to what it is that our body needs. So the fact that I am getting hunger cravings is good, because that means, remember what I told you happens when we're in sympathetic shock? Our digestion slows down, right? We're not worried about eating. We're not worried about digesting the burrito. So for me, it's good reinforcement of, oh, this is really good. My body is starting to get back into homeostasis because I'm really hungry. And then I'm going to listen to my hunger craving. Or if I get sleepy, I'm going to listen to my sleep drive. Or if I'm ready to wake up, I'm going to listen to my body saying it's time to wake up. This is reassuring the mind and the body, like, hey, I'm listening to you, body. I'm here to support you. I'm here to answer or to help whatever it is that you need. So that's going to be step 2 in calming your nerves. Step 3, and you can do this really at the beginning of all of this, is generally helpful, is to scale your anxiety, scale your nerves, scale your fear. So it's on a scale of 0 to 10. Before you start doing any of this, check in with yourself. Say, how am I feeling right now? Close your eyes, check in with your body. How am I feeling? Okay, I'm at like a 7. Okay, I'm going to go through, add ice or heat. I'm going to go through and find safety. So orient myself to the present and how I'm safe right now. I'm going to calm my nerves by listening to my biorhythms. Okay, let me check in. How do I feel now? So I was at a 7. Now I'm at a 4. In circumstances where, especially people who struggle with anxiety or overwhelming stress or are experiencing this fear response, it's important to pay attention to the little victories, okay? I'm not saying you're going to go from 10 to 0 and that's it. That sometimes the lowest we can get is 3. The lowest we can get is 4. The lowest we can get is 5. But if you started at 10 and you can decrease half, that's pretty good. Sometimes decreasing 1 is really good. It just depends on the situation. And I encourage everyone to be gentle on yourselves, not like you will go from 10 to 1. Like, that's not helpful for our bodies. That's not helpful for anyone, let alone for us to do it on ourselves. So people that struggle with like negative self-belief, negative self-talk, this is a part to be very mindful of. Is sometimes it gives you the opportunity of like, oh, I'm not doing this right because I only went from a 7 to a 6, or I'm not doing this right because I put ice on or heat on and didn't feel anything. That's not the point of this. And be intentional about what you're doing and what you want to get out of it. Like, the goal isn't to make yourself more depressed. The goal isn't to beat yourself up. It's to find these little wins. So some days, it's like anyone with kids, some days just not losing your temper is a win for the day. Now, would you have liked that day to be like the perfect day and you were happy and go lucky, never yelled at your kids once? Yeah, but in reality, can every day be like that? No, we're human. We can't maintain this all the time, right? So Scale your anxiety, pay attention to your little wins, even if you have to write it down. Now, there is huge benefits of putting what happens, what we're experiencing, and writing it down on paper. So if you're a journaler, or if you just want to take notes and then practice and write it down, that is even, so there's this idea of neuroplasticity, which is pathways in our brain, and the idea that we can change those pathways. So we can change old beliefs, we can change old reactions. We found that we can do that. Our brain is so constantly changing and evolving because of this neuroplasticity, is that when you write it down, you're creating this new pathway of, I don't need to panic. Look, I'm in control. I went from an 8 down to a 6. That's better than staying at an 8, okay? And then maybe one day you get down even lower. Or maybe one day you just go from an 8 to a 7. You're still in control. You're slowly taking control. And the more you can tell yourself you're in control, I can control this, I can control my experience, I can control my reaction, the less you're gonna feel that fear response and that panic and that anxiety, okay? So it's important. Pay attention to those small wins. Write it down so you can see, today I woke up feeling really anxious. Check in. Where do I feel? I'm an 8 out of 10. Let me do some of these different practices. Oh, look, I'm down to a 6 out of 10. Write that down. Today I wake up and I feel like I'm at a 2. Write that down. I feel really great today. Write it down. It creates a neural pathway. It trains and retrains your brain that you can handle this and you're experiencing it however you want to experience it. That your body isn't going to go on overdrive, take over, and react. Okay? Okay, so the next thing you can do is to connect mind and body, right? Because our body kind of went on cruise control and jumped in the driver's seat and is taking over. We want to connect ourselves back together. It's to activate your body, to bring your awareness back into your body. So this can look like physical fitness. So that could be a walk, a hike, a run, weightlifting, body. I know the gyms, at least here in Michigan, the gyms are closed. So it could be body exercises. You don't need weights. There's tons of full body exercises that require either no or little equipment. Doing something physical to get yourself back into your body. Now, I know this isn't everyone's thing. I know, some people hate going for walks or physically can't go for walks. I understand that. Don't feel like you have to get your heart rate up to a certain, this isn't a workout. This is getting your body moving and getting your body active. It could also be stretching. Okay, so for those people who don't like working out, that don't like going for walks, that don't like going for hikes, or can't physically, what about stretching? That's connecting mind body back together. So maybe today I don't feel like going outside because it's cold and it's windy, and so I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to do stretches and connect back into my body. The other thing that you can do is get grounded. Now, I'm going to try and write and record a meditation for you guys to use. There's a lot of ways to get grounded. One of the easiest ways to get grounded, not easiest, most common ways to get grounded is through meditation. Okay, so that's what meditation does ideally, and sometimes it's hard at first because for those of you who have anxiety, you've probably tried it and your mind is constantly going 1,000 different directions. It's a muscle, okay? Just because you try it once and it's hard to do doesn't mean it's not effective, okay? You have to do it over and over, and sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to do a 2-minute meditation or a 1-minute meditation or a 30-second meditation, and then slowly building it. But what meditation does is it connects our mind body. It gets us back into that homeostasis, out of sympathetic shock, out of parasympathetic shock. Now with meditation, sometimes I have an ice pack on my head and I'm doing a meditation because my body really wants to go into sympathetic shock, into this fight, flight, fear response, and I have to continually work to bring myself back down. So you could be doing many of these techniques. You could be doing a meditation while you're stretching. You could have an ice pack, a heat pack, stretching, and doing a meditation. That's fine. Whatever you have to do, it's not one single thing. Figure out what works for you. So there's a ton of meditations out there. There's a ton of different free resources. You don't have to pay for anything if you don't want to. So I like to use Insight Timer. There's Headspace, where I think you get 10 sessions for free and then you pay for it. Calm is another app that's really good. YouTube has a ton of different meditations, and you can focus your meditations on different things. Now, the meditation I'm going to write and record is going to be what we call 5 senses. So a good place to start if you're just starting off meditating is to connect back to your body. So it's going to lead you through a way to get into your 5 different senses. So it's closing your eyes, getting yourself relaxed to your breath, and then we go through the 5 different senses. This is getting your mind body again back together, because your mind and body have to be back together in order for you to make effective planning about the future, which is what we'll get into in the next video. The last tip I have is connection, finding genuine connection. Now, this could be FaceTiming a friend or hanging out with a friend, depending on what your state is saying you can and can't do. So this could be FaceTiming someone that makes you feel good. This could be, sometimes it's my dog, like just letting my dog come and cuddle with me and really being intentional about this connection. So none of this stuff is just going through the motions, because if you're just going through the motions and you don't feel anything, you're still in sympathetic shock or you're in parasympathetic shock. So being intentional of, I'm going to sit on the couch cuddled up with my dog for the next 15 minutes and just and relax with her and look at her little cute face, feel the love I have for her, the gratitude I have for her. Or maybe it's going out and sitting in nature or walking through nature, feeling connection to anything. It doesn't have to be just humans. It could be if you've started garden seeds, which I have growing right there, is I could walk over and think about how beautiful my garden's going to be and all the peppers I'm going to get and the tomatoes. Finding connection. Now, people that struggle with depression, this can be really difficult because it seems like there is nothing there that you can connect to. There is something there you can connect to. A family member, a certain time in your life. Even if it's not something now, you can close your eyes and connect to when you made a good decision, when something was going right, and what that felt like. That's going to be important to address this fear response and to address the coronavirus and how everyone is kind of things are just kind of crazy right now. So when we talk about taking care of our mental health, this is exactly what I'm talking about. When we panic, when there's anxiety, unless there's imminent danger, then it is not helpful. And it's contagious too, right? When one person panics, another person panics, another person panics. So it's our responsibility to take control of ourselves and stop the panic and the anxiety if it's coming from us. Okay, I'm going to stop there. And we'll continue. We'll do the 5 senses meditation, which I'll try to get done in the next couple days. And then we're going to do another video about cognitions and how that plays a role into the fear response and the coronavirus.